Hi there students. This video is about the words anchor, mainstay, cornerstone, bulwark, linchpin and buttress. Okay? These words all talk about support, about giving cohesion to something, about defending it. Okay? About keeping it safe. So the first word is anchor. Okay, it can be both a noun and a verb, an anchor to anchor. An anchor is a heavy object, normally nowadays made of wood, that you use to connect a boat or a ship to the bottom of the sea. Normally it's this metal thing that has 4 hooks at the bottom. Yeah, and you throw it into the sea and it sinks to the bottom and you fix it to your boat or your ship and it anchors the boat in position. It fixes it in position to stop it moving, yeah, to stop it drifting away, to keep your position. Okay, now we can use this word an anchor or to anchor as a person who gives stability or confidence in difficult situations or in uncertain situations. Okay, so for example, the parents provide an anchor for children. They provide stability in a difficult world. Okay, we can use it as a verb to anchor, to fix something securely in position, literally. So the machine was anchored to the wall, okay? It was fixed to the wall and wouldn't move. Maybe a mosquito anchors itself to your skin and then starts to suck your blood, okay? To anchor as well, to give a firm basis or foundation or logic to something. Okay, so for example, grammar is a good anchor for language. Grammar is anchored in language. Okay, it gives a firm basis or a firm thing that stops it from moving too far from the original. Okay, so an anchor is a source of stability. In running races, in the relay, normally you have your best runner who runs in the 4th position, you know, the baton, where they pass the baton and they're teams of 4 people. Well, normally they call the anchor or the anchor runner the last person who's the best runner in a relay. Or an anchor could be in a tug of war. A tug of war is when you have a long rope and 2 teams and they both try and pull each other. Well, the anchor is the person at the back who tries to fix the rope in position, holding on to it. Okay, so a source of stability. Also, an anchor or an anchor man or an anchor woman or an anchor person, but notice this is American, is the newsreader of a news program, or the coordinator. The person who you see is the anchor person who says, and now we'll go to our reporter in Downing Street. Okay, it's the anchor person of a news program. Okay, so let's try some examples. He was really frightened and fear anchored him to the spot, so he couldn't move. Or mussels, which are delicious to eat, they anchor themselves to a rock and they filter the water. Okay, so they are anchored to the rock. Religion is very often an anchor for a society. A mother could give emotional an anchor to her children. Yes, tradition or society is anchored on tradition. Or maybe modern society is anchored in democracy. It's fixed so that it doesn't move. Okay, so something that's fixed, yeah, something that doesn't move, something that gives stability, gives firm basics. And while we're at it, there's one other phrase. It's a very informal phrase that the English use. When you're driving and then you need to stop suddenly, you brake or you slam on the anchors. So there was an accident in front of me and I had to slam on the anchors. To slam is to hit. And, okay, so I had to brake very suddenly to slam on the anchors. But notice, an anchor or to anchor is a neutral word, neutral formality. You can use it just about anywhere, okay? So an anchor, something that gives stability. The next word is mainstay. Okay, I think mainstay is normally just a noun. Okay, this one is also from boats. You know sailing boats with big sails? Well, normally they have a main mast, or only one very often. The main mast. Well, the mainstay is a rope or a cable that goes from the deck to the top of the main mast and helps to hold it in position. Yeah, a stay is like a cable in this case. So a mainstay, it's the main rope that holds the main mast in position. Okay, so we use mainstay now figuratively to mean something on which everything else is relying, something that everything else is based on. So, for example, we could say fishing is the mainstay of the local economy, the main support, the thing that supports it in most principally. Rice and lentils are the mainstay of his diet. So he eats other things, but rice and lentils are the central foundation of it that hold it in position. You could say perhaps that he only wears dark suits. So dark suits are the mainstay of his wardrobe. These are what he generally wears. Or maybe antibiotics are the mainstay of medicine, the principal and most important thing. Yeah, the main thing, the main support. John's the best player in the team, and he is our mainstay. Without him, we'd be lost. Everything would fall to pieces. Okay, so you remember I said a tug of war, people tugging on a rope. Well, the anchor, the man at the back or the woman at the back, is the mainstay of the team, the most important thing to hold it in position. Or maybe tourism could be the mainstay of the Spanish economy. So the mainstay, the main support, something that gives stability to everything, the most important part of something. So what about formality? I would say mainstay, it's neutral, maybe ever so slightly formal, but I think more than formal, it's just a more unusual word, a more vivid verb, yeah? So instead of saying the main support, you could say the mainstay, okay? Okay, the next word is cornerstone. So when you build a building, when you construct a building, very often the first stone you lay is one big stone where one of the corners of the building goes, and that is the cornerstone. It's the stone that forms the base for the corners of the building. It's where two walls meet at the bottom. Okay, so it's the foundation. Well, it's above the foundation. It's something that supports everything else that comes above. So we use cornerstone metaphorically to mean an important quality on which something is based or depends. So going back to my example that tourism is the mainstay of the economy, we could also say it is the cornerstone of the economy. Yeah, language has a cornerstone, which is grammar. Yeah, it's something essential or basic, and the whole system will collapse without it. It supports everything else. You could say the family unit was the cornerstone of society in times past. So it supported society, and everything else went on top of it. Justice is the cornerstone of a fair society. Okay, so it's supporting everything else. Yeah, okay, it's the thing that everything else is built on. So I hope my videos form the cornerstone of your language learning. Well, maybe they should just be a supplement. I think good grammar and good vocabulary should be the cornerstone of your English learning. Okay, so cornerstone, it's a noun. I guess you could just about use it as a verb. Grammar cornerstones the language, but I think it's much more common. Grammar is the cornerstone of the language. What about formality? Well, I would say cornerstone is neutral or maybe ever so slightly formal, but in the same way as mainstay. I think cornerstone is just a vivid or an interesting way of saying the main for something. Okay, the cornerstone. So you can use it just about anywhere. Okay, let's try the next one. The next one is bulwark. Notice this word has a W, but the W is silent. A bulwark to bullock. Yeah, I think I've heard people say bulwark, but I prefer to bullock. Okay, a bulwark is a defensive wall, a fortification. Yeah, so in the old days, they used to build forts. The Romans built forts, and maybe they built a mound of earth on the outside, which was a bulwark against attack. Okay, so a bulwark is something that acts as a defense, yeah, something that protects. Okay, but it could be a person or a thing or an idea. So, for example, a good knowledge of the difference between right and wrong is a bulwark against our baser instincts, against us wanting to do bad things. You could say that a minimum salary was a bulwark against poverty. A bulwark can also be a breakwater or a mole. You have a harbour, and sometimes you have these big blocks of stone just going out into the water, and this breaks up any big storm and stops it hurting the land. So they call it a bulwark because it bullocks the land against the ravages of the sea. Okay. What about the origin of this one? Okay, this one actually comes from Dutch. Yeah, not from German, from Dutch. And it comes from bulwark. Bol meant tree. So tree work, like a palisade, if you like. Okay, a defensive wall. Yeah. So to bulwark, a bulwark, both of them. To defend against, a defense against. So, for example, democracy is a bulwark against tyranny. That's an example. Okay, volunteers are the main bulwark to the service. They fortify it and make it stronger. They defend it and stop it collapsing. So, to bulwark. Yes, you could take extra classes to bulwark any loss of English, any decrease in your level of English. Okay, the next word is linchpin. Notice, well, before I do, bulwark. So a bulwark, to bulwark. This is probably slightly formal, but again, like I said for the other two, I think it's a more unusual word. So good for you to use. You could probably use it in any situation, but it is a little bit formal or maybe a little bit old-fashioned. Okay, so, well, maybe this is a good thing to bulwark your English with. Okay, the next word is linchpin. Notice the word linchpin can be spelt with both an I and a Y. Yeah, an I and a Y. Okay, a linchpin is, let's see, if you have a carriage or a wheeled vehicle, it has an axle. And the wheel goes onto the end of the axle. So the wheel is on the axle. And then you have a pin that goes here to stop the wheel falling off. That is the linchpin. Okay, so it's a pin that goes through the axle to prevent the wheel falling off. Now we use this word linchpin metaphorically to mean something that is vital, that is essential to a plan, to an organization, to a group. It's something that holds everything together and gives it cohesion. It's a key element. So maybe you could say that the monarchy was the linchpin of medieval society. Yes, it held everything together and stopped the wheel coming off, if you like. In a murder trial, perhaps the murder weapon is the linchpin of the prosecution's case. Or mathematics is the linchpin of physics. Without mathematics, physics just falls apart. Okay, so linchpin. So remember, this linchpin is the pin that holds a wheel onto an axle. It's something that gives cohesion through the system, gives a theory cohesion, gives a group or a team cohesion. So, as somebody could be the mainstay of the team or the cornerstone of the team, then the linchpin is somebody who also holds the team together, supports and keeps everything in place. So maybe the captain is the linchpin of the team. Okay, linchpin. What about formality? Again, the same as the others. Neutral, maybe slightly formal, a different word. I think you could use it in the pub or particularly in your written works, yeah? And it makes them sound good. So we come to the last word, buttress. A buttress, to buttress. Okay, a buttress is a stone or brick structure built against a wall to give it support, to give it strength or reinforcement or stability. Yeah? So if you build a wall and it's very wobbly, you could build a buttress on the side and it gives the wall more stability. Buttresses are an architectural feature, and you particularly find them in old buildings, particularly cathedrals. And the idea of the buttress was to support the lateral pressure, the side pressure of the roof. Because if you put a roof on a high wall, there's lots of pressure pushing it down this way. So you build a buttress here and it stops the roof collapsing. So we use buttress metaphorically, meaning to give extra support to strengthen, to reinforce. So maybe you should take extra English classes to buttress your English. We can also use to buttress, meaning to give extra justification for an argument. So he gave more evidence to buttress, to strengthen his argument. Reading can buttress your vocabulary. Okay, his argument about not building on the land was buttressed by the presence of endangered species living on the land. So a buttress buttresses, it supports, it gives extra strength too. It bolsters or sustains or props up. Now we can also use this word, a buttress, in trees. If you've ever been to the tropics, you'll find there are some trees that have this big trunk, and then suddenly it has these large, like fins at the bottom. These are a buttress, the buttress to the tree. Yeah, these fins on the side can be enormous. Okay, so let's try some more examples of to buttress, meaning to prop up, to support. So the mother buttressed the stability of the family. His justification for his action was buttressed by other external events. The beat of the drums was buttressed by the beat of the bass guitar. Money was given to local events in order to buttress local culture. So to buttress, to give more strength to. And again, with this question of formality, I think buttress is neutral, maybe slightly formal, but a more unusual word again. So let's just go through them again. An anchor, what you throw off a boat or a ship to keep it in position. So to anchor, to fix securely, to give support to stop it moving. The mainstay is the cable that holds the main mast in position. The main, most important factor that gives stability to everything. A cornerstone, the corner of the building at the base. Something which gives support and something that everything else is based on, and everything would collapse without it. A bulwark to defend, a defensive wall. So to bulwark, to defend, to give extra defence to. The linchpin, this pin that holds a wheel on an axle and stops it falling off. A key element that holds everything else together and gives it cohesion. And a buttress, a wall against another wall to stop it collapsing. So to buttress, to reinforce, to give extra stability to. And that's it. So I hope this video will buttress your English. Anyway, enough. If you enjoyed the video, give it a rating, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now. Anchor, mainstay, cornerstone, bulwark, you can also say bulwark, linchpin and buttress.